Safechuck and Robson both sued the Jackson estate, but their lawsuits were dismissed because of statute of limitations. They are now appealing that. HBO says it's airing the documentary to allow everybody the opportunity to assess the film and the claims in it for themselves. Wesley Morris is critic-at-large for the New York Times. He recently wrote what the Times calls one of the paper's must-read articles, headlined, "Michael Jackson Casts a Spell, Leaving Neverland Breaks It." Wesley Morris, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody.
So you've heard all the criticism. It's one-sided. It's a character association, admitted liars. I want to know your reaction to that. And I'm also curious your thoughts before you watch the documentary and your thoughts after.
I mean, like a lot of people, it's not that I didn't want to see it, but you don't want to have to deal with what seeing it, if the movie convinces you, is going to leave you with, right? Mm-hmm. And I went in not really, we've all lived with what it meant to have Michael Jackson be accused of child molestation.
We've heard these allegations for years. Yeah.
I mean, he was tried, he was acquitted, he settled out of court. But this movie it's convincing. And it's you as an audience member sitting here watching these two men and their families talk about what it meant to have Michael Jackson in their lives. I mean, just setting aside the child molestation accusations, mm-hmm. This is a person who is very much in the lives of these two people. There is tons of evidence that the family has, just mementos of...
Why did you believe them?
Why did I believe them?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think some of what makes it credible is just the degree to which their stories are similar, mm-hmm. and the amount of time that Michael Jackson was alone with them. Yeah. Now, I know that's going to lead to all these other questions about who was responsible or like what role the parents had and all of this stuff, but that's the way we treated every other accusation against Michael Jackson.
Well, you write in the piece, too, that one of the most chilling things for you was the ring. The mm-hmm. clip that we just played, that he wanted that he knew, that Michael Jackson knew this was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, he said a lot. I mean, according to James Safechuck and Wade Robson, Michael Jackson seemed to understand the moral barrier that sort of made whatever was going on between him and James and then him and Wade wrong. And
you use the phrase "bearing witness," though, in your article, which I thought was very interesting.
Well, I mean, the movie is, I mean, the film itself is presenting these stories without a lot of editorial dissent, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't James and Wade sort of saying that Michael Jackson did this, and you hear from the family or you hear from lawyers. This is simply a laying out of a story that goes very neatly into the stories that we've been talking about with Michael Jackson.
How do you see this documentary affecting the other alleged accusers who told their stories in the past and were not believed?
Of Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question, too. I would love to hear from, the Arvizos, for instance, who were part of that night, like the objects of that 2003 trial, where Michael Jackson was acquitted, mostly for all kinds of reasons. That trial was a little bit of a fiasco.
You remind our viewers about the impact that Michael Jackson had on society and explain the difference that this brings compared to the charges against Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein.
I mean, it's Michael Jackson. I mean, nobody, Woody Allen, R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein,
Cosby.
Bill Cosby, any one of these men, Matt Lauer, nobody has had the sort of cultural impact that Michael Jackson has had. Michael Jackson is responsible for, I would say 30% of the music that we've gotten since Michael Jackson.
So how do you separate the man who's accused of these allegations and his music? What are people who love Michael Jackson and the music, what are they supposed to do with this information?
I mean, that's the question you always ask in these situations. What do you do with the work the person has made, and how do you separate that from the horrible thing the person has done? I mean, I'm not going to sidestep that question. I think it's impossible to answer, for one thing. In the case of Michael Jackson, I mean, what do you do? I'm going to get on the subway later. There's going to be somebody playing a guitar, and it's going to be Billie Jean. Yeah. This person doesn't know about this documentary and doesn't want to know. So I feel like that question, the real question to ask is, how do we prevent things like this from happening again? And I think the real question in this situation, in all these situations, whether it's the priesthood or celebrity is how much power we give people and how much faith we put in them. And you know, fame is a disease, celebrity is kind of a religion, and we have to reconcile what we want our relationship to be with those two things, and how we want, I mean, not to be too much on a tangent here, but did you guys see that Kidfluencers story this weekend that the Times ran? It's about kids who are selling things on Instagram and their parents sort of letting them do it. This to me seems like a direct correlation, not that you know, anything bad in this way is going to happen to these kids, but it seems like Michael Jackson became famous at a very early age.
Yeah. Well, you raise a lot of questions in this, and it's a beautifully written piece, and that's why it's one of the must-reads. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm sorry I was so rambly.
Not at all.
It's a complicated subject.
You're such a beautiful writer too, and this raises so many questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.